Good morning, good evening. Purnima Gupta, IIT Roorkee, President, Chapter, PanIIT Chapter of the Carolinas. Nice to see so many of you. I'm glad that you are participating. Otherwise we wouldn't have any audience today. But there will be a lot of audience later on once it is posted on YouTube. Now, Todd, you have to forgive me because I'm going to say a little bit I'm going to talk a little bit in Hindi. इकबाल जिन्होंने हिंदुस्तान की तारीफ में लिखा था, सारे जहां से अच्छा हिंदुस्तान हमारा, जिन्होंने लिखा था हिंदुस्तान सारे जहां से अच्छा हिंदुस्तान हमारा, उन्होंने शायद हम आईआईटीएंस की तारीफ में लिखा था, नहीं तेरा नशेमन, नहीं तेरा नशेमन, कसरे सुल्तानी की गुंबद पर तू शाही है, तू शाही है बसेरा कर पहाड़ों की चट्टानों पर। कसरे सुल्तानी कहते हैं बादशाह का महल। हम लोग शाही तो हैं ही, तू शाही है, हम लोग शाही तो हैं ही, इसीलिए दुनिया पर राज करने की चाहत रखते हैं। मगर भारत से अमरीका आए, जिनकी नेशनल बर्ड जो है ईगल है, और शाही का मतलब होता है, कितने लोग जानते हैं? फरजाना तो जानती है, उन्होंने तो मुझे ये शेर ही दिया है। शाही का मतलब है चील। तो हम शाही हैं, शाही इज ईगल, एंड हिमालयन माउंटेन्स हैव posed a big time challenge for us engineers lately. We need to be like eagles, to learn to live in the mountains and soar high. Today's session is an interactive session. We can talk to each other as much as we want to, especially after any talks. I invite Mr. Abhay Bhushan from IIT Kanpur and MIT to introduce our first eminent speaker, Dr. Jagdish Narayan, also from IIT Kanpur and Berkeley.
Well, thank you, Purnima. It's a great pleasure to introduce Professor Jagdish Narayan. I have known Jagdish since he was a freshman at IIT Kanpur in 1964, a bright young boy or lad with intelligence showing through his eyes. And I was a senior at that time, and he was just incoming freshman. And we were their student guides, the senior class. Jagdish has really excelled in many different fields: teaching, research, innovation. He is John Fan Family Distinguished Chair, Professor in the Department of Material Science and Engineering at University of North Carolina. And he has many other appointments, including Distinguished Business Scientist at Oak Ridge National Lab at NC State. He is faculty appointment Physics and EFC. After graduating with distinction and first rank from IIT Kanpur in 1969, Narayan continued straight for his studies to University of California, Berkeley. And he obtained his master's and PhD in a record time of 2 years. My sister did in 3 years at Stanford. I thought that was quite good, but Jagdish is an order of magnitude, 1 year is an order of magnitude better. To do it is unheard of. So I don't know how he did it. I have some questions to ask about it later. And in 1998, IIT Kanpur gave him the Distinguished Alumnus Award for his excellence in teaching, research, innovation, and all around. He also received the Distinguished Service Award from National Science Foundation. Professor Narayan honors and awards are so much that I start keeping it to be longer than his speech. Okay, I mean, I can go on and on. I mean, it's ECTA material gold medal, ASM gold medal, RFML gold medals, life members of NAE, life fellow, NAI, Life Fellow NAS, and I can continue on and on. Honorary member, North Carolina Science Award, the highest civilian honor of North Carolina. Max Gardner Award, the highest UNC system honor. Halliday Medal, the highest NCSU honor. So he has received the highest honors from his peers at the universities as well as people in the state. And it's an amazing journey, and his research just continued to amaze me. I was reading about him, and it was just kind of amazing what he is still doing. And he has over 1,000 papers in active journals, has received over 40 US patents. I mean, that's an amazing number of patents to have. And he has over 35,000 index overnight. He has trained and mentored over 88 PhDs who are highly successful in the field and since processing novel materials, atomic and nanoscale characterizations. It's just an amazing, amazing journey. And I hope to hear about his most recent research, which is cube carbon and diamond related materials and how to make diamonds with a high pressure and unprecedented mechanical, harder than diamond, electrical, NV, and nano diamond, quantum computing, and record near room temperature, BCS, superconductivity. These things are going to change the whole way we look at materials and how the materials have impact over computer science, over metallurgy, over mining, over drilling of things. The applications are endless. He is still continuing the research, and it's amazing. And he's well regarded by all the people in the United States and worldwide. So without much further ado, I'd like to have Professor Jagdish Narayan speak to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhayji. I'm honored to be introduced by you. Before I begin, I would like to thank Purnima ji and the organizers and all the people in the audience. I'm very pleased to be talking to you all. So this discovery, if Siva, you could put the first slide, this discovery is scientific, economically interesting because it converts carbon into diamond, most cheapest material into the most precious material in a fraction of a microsecond. 1/5 of a microsecond, we create carbon layer into diamond. So we have opened a new frontier from jewelry to quantum computing, because these are diamond and related materials are the next stage of semiconductor material. They are called ultimate semiconductor materials, diamond and its cousin cubic boron nitride. So I will be try to compress this talk as much as possible, and I would try to be brief because recently I gave this talk honoring John Goodenough, the Nobel laureate he had at the University of Texas, Austin. So I have compressed that into, I got rid of 2/3 of those slides. Okay, so next slide. What is this discovery? It's as I said, it's economically exciting, but scientifically is more exciting. If you look at the carbon atom, it has nucleus has 6 protons and 6 neutrons. And then the next, orbital one, S2, has 2 electrons. The outer one have 2s2, 2p2. And how you mix these outer 4 electrons determines whether you would have graphene or graphite. So if you look at the, Siva, can you point to number 1, graphite? Graphene. No, go down. Can I point it? Here. So this is when you take 1s and 2p electrons and keep one of them free, then it's a graphite. That's a plain old carbon. But if you go down, if you take one S and mix these electrons and make called sp3, that's called hybridization. So how you mix these outer 4 electrons, that determines whether you'd be worthless carbon or you shiny diamond. Same thing you can do with the cousin of carbon called boron nitride. Interestingly, it goes HBN, which is parallel to carbon, but it has a band gap, where graphite has metallic, and CBN. So if you look at the figures of merit, these materials for Johnson's figure of merit, high power devices, electronic transformers, and all these 5G to 10G, these materials will take us to 10G. The figure of merit is 8,200 for these materials, only 1 for silicon. Microelectronics, 32 for these materials and 1 for silicon. So you can see these materials are far superior. So the future of microelectronics and all kinds of devices, semiconductor devices, lies with these materials, carbon and diamond. So next slide will show briefly that how new materials determine the direction of new technology. Because the new technologies depend upon the materials. If you look at throughout human history, advances in materials have defined the human civilization. Stone Age to Bronze Age to Iron and Steel Age, information, which is semiconductor and nanomaterials, is always the materials, because they are the foundation of technologies. So these new materials, which I have created a new phase. In fact, I call mother of diamond, which is called Q carbon, and mother of CBN, cousin, is a QBN. These materials have superior semiconductor, superconducting, mechanical, and other properties. For example, diamond is the hardest material known to mankind. Until Q carbon came, Q carbon is 70% harder than diamond. And that is so exciting. Something which God made a perfect material, diamond, and nobody thought they could make it harder. And this Q carbon, we made it harder, not by 10%, 20%, but 70%. But these materials are metastable, but they have deep free energy minima, diamond including CBN. So you have to come up with the new processing techniques using lasers. Basically, what it means is, if you do it fast, you can fool thermodynamics. You have to be smart to do that. It's not easy to fool Mother Nature, but it turns out that it can be done. And these materials would lead to quantum computing, I will discuss very briefly. So next view graph basically summarizes what I just already said. Johnson's figure of merit. What are these properties? Is 8,200 for these materials, only 1 for silicon. So next slide will show you what is this discovery, what is the essence of discovery. If you look at this unit cell of diamond on the left, diamond is the hardest because it has maximum number density of atoms per unit volume. There's a maximum number because size is small. But what we did, we dissected this unit cell. On the right, we found that one tetrahedra has a central atom in it, but next door down, it has a missing atom. There is no central atom. So here we went to work. We said, look, we can, if we can fill this atom, we can double the density of number of atoms in this unit cell. And that basically led to this discovery, how we can create a new unit cell, and then we can create new properties, new materials. So next slide shows this Q carbon. So now you have, I put 4 more atoms inside, and I have created this new unit cell, and this is called crystalline Q phase. But it turns out diamond, this one nucleates diamond like crazy, you know, it's ready to nucleate. Diamond is very hard to nucleate, but this phase nucleates diamond, and you can easily turn this into diamond or convert into diamond. So next slide. There's a little bit of history. You know, these discoveries started in 1979. Big thing in science. Well, I at Oak Ridge National Lab, and he started a big society called Material Research Society. But nothing happened until 1991, the next one. And that's when I could convert carbon into diamond, but I couldn't control the process, couldn't be controlled. And at 1991, we hit the Science, we hit the New York Times, but it took 2015 with the help of very bright students, and you can see all these patents and all these students. But also my grandson helped me in computer modeling, who was at that time, one day I was babysitting. So I had somebody babysitting the kids. Don't underestimate. Sometimes you can get something very. I was babysitting my grandson, and my PhD students having tough time to convert this old computer modeling, which we had done, into Windows program. It was in TRS-80, if some of you may remember. But my grandson, he said, "Grandpa, give me 2 hours, I will be able to help out." And within 2 hours, he was able to turn that computer calculation into Windows. And then I could dream of the sweet spot where I could go to turn carbon into diamond. So next slide. That's when this paper is in 79 in Science. I put it up because that's when Science never puts something very scientific, but this is first time they put these defects in silicon on the cover page. And the next view graph would show this very interesting slide to launch this field. This is Professor Nicholas Bloombergen from Harvard. And I'm a young guy, and I had just published this, organized a conference. I was the chair of the conference in front of all these guys. And he had just gotten his Nobel Prize. And we had this fantastic meeting in Boston in 1982. And so you will see later on, next view graph will show that when I discovered this converging carbon into diamond, 1991, and Bloombergen came, Professor Nicholas Bloombergen came in 1992 to pay us a visit in Raleigh, North Carolina, because he was so excited how I can manipulate the electronic wave functions and turn carbon into diamond. So that was a very special moment for the state of North Carolina, actually, because we hit New York Times and all these students who worked on it. So next slide. This is a slide from a very famous professor from MIT, Millie Dresselhaus. She's comparing 2 Nobel Prizes in carbon and how she feels that these Nobel Prizes, 1996 in chemistry and 2010 in physics, first was on discovery of fullerenes with allotrope of carbon. And after that, next one was in graphene in physics. She thought these are the graphite sheets, where in one case you made a ball, in other case is a thin film, but they are not allotrope. That means they are not new phases. And it has, whereas she felt that Q carbon is truly a new carbon, and that's why it has such a unique properties, where she felt that those were a misnomer by the Nobel Committee, calling them allotrope. Allotrope means they have different free energy than the parent material, which they don't. So, so next slide. Now we go a little bit. If you look at the phase diagram, you can convert carbon into diamond at 5,000 degree Kelvin and 120,000 atmosphere. That's how nature makes diamond, in that triple point. See, if you could point triple point right here, you can convert carbon into diamond, and that's how nature makes. In the Earth crust, we reach that temperature and we turn into carbon into diamond, and then how you mine it. But we did it at ambient temperature, very short time. We heated 4,000 K, just the green dot right there. So we go from there to there at 4,000 K and ambient pressure. We don't have to go to 120,000. So we heat it for very short time. This is the same laser which you use for LASIK surgery, by the way. So for a short time, your when they zap your eye, they ablate the tissue for a fraction of a microsecond, 100 nanosecond. You ablate the eye because you put in so much power for a very short time. That's what we are doing here. For a short time, we put so much power. So overall temperature rise is only 5 degree K. You barely feel LASIK surgery. And that's what we did. So we can convert, for example, your skin into diamond. That's what it means. Okay, so next slide. So we worked out what is this mystery. So finally we solved because you have to make peace with thermodynamics. So the lowest, most stable phase of carbon is graphite. Next is diamond-like carbon, the green one. After that is diamond. And then this is a new phase Q. And then when you melt it, so what we do, we take a laser, we melt it quickly, and we, depending upon how you undercool it. So if you go to Q is TQ, TD, it turns into diamond, T alpha into this diamond-like carbon, and finally is the graphite. So next slide shows all these different, this shows how you do it with maybe click one more time, they will show the laser beam, how it comes. And then, one more time. And this shows how we are making this material. And whole thing is finished in 200 nanosecond, 1/5 of a microsecond. But this process occurs in liquid. So we are making diamond at the rate of 10 meters per second. So even for 100 nanosecond, we can make a very fairly thick films in such a short time. So next, we will show you now. So we can take plain old carbon, make graphene. As you know, graphene, because although we can make a very interesting PN junctions out of graphene, as shown here. Next one shows how you can, these are the atomic scale pictures, and it shows the diode on the right. With one laser pulse, you can make a diode out. We can basically write your graphene p-n junctions. And next slide will want to, again, these materials, we can turn them ferromagnetic. Carbon not supposed to be magnetic, but again, we have manipulated that spin, electron spin, and so we can turn carbon into ferromagnetic and put a spin as shown by these measurements. Very recently, we have turned silicon, ordinary silicon, into Q silicon and put this spin. As you know, most of the current modern microelectronics depends upon the charge of an electron. But if you use the spin of the electron, then you can make it much faster and with much less, and you can make a quantum computer. A spin works like a quantum computer rather than working like 0101 discrete logic, which is the present computers are based upon. So after that, let's see how we can turn into, this is another, we can create a very selective p-n junctions out of boron nitride. But let's go to diamond, see if we can see the next slide. Yeah, here you can take a film of simple carbon, turn into all kinds of these structures. You can make a thin, D is the continuous thin film, B is nano diamond. This is for quantum computing. C is for coating for hip and knee joints, and that's the other one. So you can make all these different directly from just take a plain old carbon and turn into these diamond microstructures. The next view graph will show you can make these Q carbon balls. These are harder than diamond by 70%, and you can organize them. You can see they're acting like a ring. That means you can turn them into diamond rings, solid diamond rings by this technique. The next view graph, this is again, this is a galaxy of nano diamond. And each diamond can act, this nano diamond can act as a qubit. And all you need one ring of this to make a quantum computer. So you can guys out, you can separate this one ring, and if they are entangled, and that's make your quantum computer. Next one, as I said, these materials, we made them ferromagnetic. They got the spin out in Q carbon. And so now you can think of drug delivery. For example, you can have Q carbon, which is ferromagnetic. You can coat it, and you can target it therapy. Or in terms of quantum computing, you can think of all kinds of interesting applications. As before, the one bottom right, that's how as deposited carbon looks. This is called diamagnetic. That's how. But as soon as you hit one laser pulse, it becomes ferromagnetic, as shown here. So next view graph. This material also turns superconducting, which is this is a record superconductivity. So far, the record superconductivity for this is BCS, which is critical to quantum computing, was 29K. With Q carbon, 25 atomic percent, we have achieved the record superconducting transition. So that's another very big deal. Next one, it shows how these things are floating for magnetic levitation. So it's really, so carbon, the record was for carbon 11K. From 11K, we have turned to 55K, at which we can think of all kinds of interesting applications through refrigeration systems. So next, let's go. As I said, this is harder than diamond. So if you look at the Q carbon numbers, I want to just go to Q carbon Young's modulus. Here is 1700 gigapascals for Q carbon, and for diamond is 1000, 1015. So you can see it's 70% harder than diamond. And so that's a truly, and it turns out the superconductivity and hardness go hand in hand through Debye frequency. So it makes sense. Okay, go ahead. Let's see what we are. Well, this is your quantum computing. You see, if you can put these 9 qubits, so we are getting there. We are not able to self-organize them as shown in this yellow. The experiment shows on the left all these. So if we can put together these things and we have to entangle them, that means make them to talk, these spins. And that all it takes to make a quantum computer, these 9 qubits. And this quantum computer would operate at room temperature. So that would open up a very big deal, because the quantum computing behaves as the brain works. It's like overlapping logic, 0, 1, 0, 1. It's not a discrete logic, 0, 1. It's an overlapping 0, 1. So, so this quantum computer behaves like the way brain thinks. As a result, you have much bigger memory. And for artificial intelligence, you have to go to quantum computing. Because 0, 1, 0, 1, if you put all the memory together, it's still equal to the human brain, but not with quantum computing. So that's the future. Okay, let's see what else we have. Well, this is the first time we make diamond p-n junctions, which is a very big deal, because diamond could be doped with p and n. Diamond so far could be doped only with p. So now diamond could be doped with p-n junctions, and this is the first diode transistor. Okay. So let me summarize and give you more time to ask questions. We have shown that we can do direct conversion of carbon into phase pure graphene, diamond, and Q carbon, which is a new phase. We can do the same thing with cubic boron nitride, which is the cousin of diamond. And it has similar properties, but it's not as hard as diamond. Recently, we have done on Q silicon. CBA is part of it, and we have just submitted a patent on Q silicon, which I feel would revolutionize the modern microelectronics. We have introduced a spin, both in Q carbon as well as in Q silicon. And these nanodiamonds are ripe for atomic level sensing and quantum computing at room temperature. Right now, they're doing it with the technology which requires refrigeration, cryogenic refrigeration. We have a quantum computing center, IBM Quantum Computing Center, where the chip is barely head of a pin, but the refrigeration system is half of the building. But now with this, you can don't have to use refrigeration. And we have new record BCS, high temperature superconductivity, and so forth. And this will lead to levitated train resistance, power transmission, and all those good things. And best of all, in the quantum computing. So this discovery, as I said, I'm getting so many calls from India, Surat, where all the jewelers are so excited how to convert carbon into diamond, and then Okay, so I stop here and give you a chance to ask questions. And thank you again, Purnima ji, organizers, and Abhay ji for taking all the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Abhay Bhaiya, the floor is yours.
Okay. Let me ask the first question.
Okay.
Jagdish, tell me, how did your education at IIT Kanpur help you in getting your PhD at Berkeley, which is one of the top schools and difficult to get a PhD, in record 2 years?
Yeah, that's, in 1969, Americans had put man on the moon, and Berkeley was rated #1 school in the world. And so they were taunting me all the time that, how good you would perform, how good are you? They have not, they have taken students from IISc mostly, and IITs were new for Berkeley. And so my job was to start to prove. They have taken only one student from whole of Asia for this special fellowship. So it was a tremendous, it was exciting thing, but at the same time, it was a little burdensome to prove that, because they were all the time, to tell you the truth, Indians did not have a good reputation at that point in time. They were known for cramming. We were known for, but not for innovation. And since Man on the Moon was in 1969, that was a time, and Berkeley, with this big center on electron microscopy, all the moon rocks were coming to Berkeley for all kinds of analysis. So I was under watchful eye that how well I perform, and I knew how well I do would reflect. But how I did it, to tell you the truth, I worked very hard, in the sense that I was having such a fun time at the Lawrence Berkeley lab, which was open all the time. As you know, it's on the hill, and it's open all the time, and you could be there as long as you want to. And when you're done, you get a free taxi to your apartment. I thought, gee. So I used to have a note to myself that Jagdish and God has given you the greatest opportunity. Don't mess it up, So it was, I was, but it takes more than that. It's not just a hard work to get a PhD in 1 year, because Berkeley had, Ernest Lawrence, which has a record of 2.5 years to do PhD. And they didn't want anybody to touch that record at Berkeley, because as you know, in California, E.O. Lawrence is God. That time, scientifically, he was a revered guy. And they didn't want anybody to touch his record. But I published 12 papers from my thesis, first authored paper, 6 alone. And they were just, it was so overwhelming that 12 journal papers in 1 year, they have never seen that before. And even Lawrence didn't do that. So they had to do this. But I still remember they wanted to slow me down. So the committee came back and they said, you have to take a graduate course in mathematics before we will let you go. And my professors thought, they really are putting roadblocks for your thesis. But, I told him, no, I like math. I don't have any problem. And I don't know, my batch guys called me Loney. I am known after famous mathematician Loney, who in high school trigonometry book guy. Somehow they had Still my batchmate call me by that name. And I remember I was struggling, and I told one of my friends at Stanford that, hey, I'm struggling with this course. And he said, you know, you lonely, how could you be struggling with this course? You are lonely. And that hit me. And I said, yeah, I should be okay. And everything worked out, you know. And yeah, because minimum time was 6 years at Berkeley at that time. But they didn't publish 12 papers, you know. I published 12 papers, and those papers were, I must say, Abhijit, there was some God's help in it, because what I went to Oak Ridge National Lab. They wanted me to do this similar thing at Berkeley, and I put 5 scientists, made me a group leader. I put 5 scientists, and they were slower than what I had done in 1 year. Today, Siba and these guys, as smart they are, if I give my PhD thesis work to them, it may take them 10 years. It was so difficult what I did. That would be another time to explain what I did was so difficult. But that thing was so difficult that, as you know, at that time, Einstein's son was at Berkeley, professor at Berkeley. And he was fascinated with this. He was professor of civil engineering, and I was doing stereo microscopy. And he used to see, you know, hills and valleys and through stereo microscopy. And I was seeing atoms with it. And he was so fascinated. He always says, boy, if my dad has seen this, that you can see atoms, he would be so excited, you know. And so he was my big fan. And Hans Einstein, you know, he was a very nice person, and he let me use his stereo microscopes. And so all those things got aligned in a proper direction. And that was, I think, is somewhat God's doing.
Yeah.
I have a question here.
Okay, go ahead.
If you did your PhD in 2 years, and if your mind worked as fast as you say it did, then how do you have so much patience for your students who may not be as sharp? How do you work with them?
No, I understand that. So I love my students. So, but I'm a tough love guy. So I want them to as good as they could be, but at the same time, I don't put them to that standard, you know, because that was just, as I said, lucky break. I worked hard, but at the same time, it was also lucky. Berkeley, their facilities were so tremendous, and they have given me this very special fellowship, all the facilities. And I was staying with the professor's house. They were so nice to me. So all those things, they are not available to the kids. You know, nobody lives in professor's house. So all those things worked out, you know. But I'm very patient with mine. But I was a little tough when from Oak Ridge, when I came to, and I tell these students now that how I have mellowed down, you know. And but I don't put them to the same test, because that won't be fair, you know, because I had some special situation, and I had some special, as I said, there was some God's help in there. So I have to be careful.
And another time I asked you a question, and I would like to mention it here for our other viewers, audience. I asked you if these colored diamonds have more faults in them, then how come they are more expensive?
So they have these
And
color
your answer-
centers. Yeah, you can make blue diamond if you put one nitrogen atom, and that's what you can dope them. And they are atomic level defects. They become less expensive if they are large defects. But if they are atomic level defects and they are colored, they are color centers, then they are more expensive. So how
And
big is the
they-
defect matters.
you also mentioned that because they are so rare, that's why they pick up prices.
Yeah, but now we can make them blue through our process. Yeah.
Okay.
May I ask a question, if possible, if there's time?
Please, please.
Okay, wonderful presentation, really insightful. I'm so excited to be part of this today and really listening to things which we always thought this is part of some stories which you only hear as stories, but here is something real life that we are witnessing here through Professor Jagdish Narayan. So thank you very much. The question is that, are there any similar researches going on elsewhere, trying to manufacture or create some ores or materials which are otherwise mined and which are considered precious in the sense that they are in short supply, are expensive. And now one thing comes to my mind is lithium, for example. These days, everybody's talking about the batteries and etc.
Yeah.
Lithium is a crucial component. It's not available in that great supply. And I may be wrong, that NASA has embarked upon research, start trying to simulate the first implosion which actually happened somewhere in the galaxy and created the initial lithium which was distributed in the galaxy. I'm not sure about it, but are you aware of other researches which are going on? Not just lithium I just took as an example, but there could be other materials which could be, people would be, trying to recreate just as you have.
That's a very good question. In fact, this John Goodenough is the battery Nobel laureate, at Texas. And he invited me, he's a chemist, and he wanted the insight of physics and material science to improve the lithium ion battery. That's why actually that was it. So since then, in the last, we have a PhD person, and how to improve the anode and cathode and get new materials. That is the goal. So for example, right now, we are working on a battery material called SIBA, actually working on called lithium iron phosphate. Instead of lithium, you can use sodium, and sodium is cheap. And so you don't have to stay with lithium, but you have to make sure they move properly and you microstructure them properly. So there are new materials which we are working. So we are working with the John Goodenough's group at Texas and Oak Ridge National Lab. These students are working and using lasers, how to manipulate the defects and microstructure and to create new anodes and cathodes. So that's the key, and we will come up with the alternative. Just a matter of
Thank
time.
you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jagdish, go ahead. Purnima.
Anything else, Abhay?
Yeah, I have a couple of more things, okay? Just one kind of thing, this is like a quick kind of a question. Jagdish, when are you going to come with solved example by J.N. Looney in material science? Remember the solved example by Looney that people mugged at my time? They didn't even go to fundamentals. They just mugged the answer from solved example by S.L. Looney. So you have some books in material science?
Yeah. No, I haven't had time to write books, although I have 3 contracts to write a book, but I need to, right now I'm so busy with this papers, because the patents and papers and my colleagues, like when they retire, they want to take. One of my friends just retiring, he said, I want to write a book with you, and I said, okay, so we might write a book. But right now, I have books which are there, but not like Loney's books. Those were very, very, he's a, but see, those guys who write books, he was a teaching professor at Cambridge. See, in Cambridge, so you see today's world in professor's life, you have to publish at Paris, as you know. There is no time to write, except papers. But the books, you don't get any credit. In fact, the professors who write books, they are considered as if they may not be good in research. So it's really sad. And in fact, there is a gulf between people who are a good researcher and good teacher. But I'm the one guy who wants to bridge that gap, saying, no, good researcher and good teachers are the same thing. And I tell them how I get a good ideas teaching. In fact, this idea for Q carbon even came from teaching. And when you can explain to the students in a very simple terms. See, what I was fascinated at Berkeley, that most of the undergrad lower level courses were taught by Nobel laureates. And professors used to sit at the back, the whole back row was all professors. And we used to see how these guys are going to take a simple concept and put some new insights, And that was fascinating to see that. And so that's what I'm trying to do, when I teach my students, which I still, do every semester, teaching always, life's experience, For example, 2 years ago, I had a dental implant. And, this dental implant, they make a crown, and then crown goes somewhere else and then comes back. Now they can do it right there, but you have to fire it for an hour before they put in your mouth. I said, look, I don't want to wait that long. Maybe I can make something. So I came up with a process where if you pass the electric current and heat it at the same time, then your crown can be better than just by heating by factor of 3 or 4, and you will never have a, and that process is working like a charm, that sintering, we call electric field assisted sintering. And it's basically how to enhance the defect mobility and the sintering. And so I love to solve the life problems, whether it's, wherever they are, in medical to, electronics to quantum computing.
So, I have one question, if I may. It may be a long answer, but it's a bit philosophical. But since you've turned things into diamonds and you've improved the crown process, I read a book recently by the physicist David Deutsch, Beginning of Infinity. He argues that good explanations are everything. He's a technology optimist, and he says that with sufficient explanation, humans really can do almost anything. He uses the example of being able to, with enough knowledge, create machines that could take us to the stars, because those machines could assemble anything that we need to basically construct any form of matter that we need. I'm just wondering if you are familiar with his work, and since you're close to making it practical, what you think?
No, I believe that if you dig, try to understand, for example, a lot of people did understand what is contained in meteorites. For example, why we are here, why, solar flares should fry us, because it turns out that our core, Earth's core, is magnetic because there is a Q carbon there, I just believe. And that's why this magnetism deflects the solar flares, and that's why Earth has survived. Otherwise, we would have been perished long time. If you look at the meteorites, there's a Q carbon there. So what I'm saying is knowledge is, I love to understand everything, 5 years ago, my doctor told me, you have cataract, you need to have a surgery. And I fixed it without surgery. And I didn't have an operation. 10 years ago, I was told my knees are going to go bad. I fixed them. I didn't get any, so I don't wear glasses. I fix my eyes.
I
and-
hope you did not raise these body parts to 4,000 degrees Celsius.
Well,
In order to accomplish that.
For example, see, eyes, why you have to wear glasses? Because your lens gets more concave as you age. Okay, I think we should.
Okay, let us move on.
Yeah, let's move
I
on.
have
Thank
one
you
last
so
thing.
much.
Okay. See,
Go ahead.
Jagdish, you talked
Thank you.
about Q carbon, you talked about QBN, Q silicon. It sounds like QAnon, but we're not going to go into that. But let me ask you, what do you expect? What time frame do you expect for commercialization of Q carbon and other Q substances?
Yeah, we expect in next 2 to 3 years. People are really working to go into quantum computing at room temperature. Right now, it's cryogenics. And so quantum computing and these making these next generation going to 10G, from 5G to 10G, you need diamond-based transistors. Or this Q carbon is the most radiation resistant material. So if you put a coating of Q carbon, then you will never have the subtle disaster which we had, because it was all radiation damaged logic. And if you put a Q carbon, nothing can penetrate. It cannot be radiation damaged. We put this Q carbon in a reactor equivalent to dose of 25 years of, and this Q carbon has stayed as nothing happened to it after 25 years worth of nuclear radiation. So this has a, I will send you a very detailed about 12 different facets of its applications, and then you can see which ones have to get ahead of the others, because they all 12 cannot go. You have to go one at a time.
Thank you, Jagdish. It was absolutely a fantastic talk. I mean, I was just spellbound and amazed, and we'll continue our discussions by email.
Yes, we will. Thank you so much.
Very informational, flabbergasting. There was a time when Dr. Jagdish Narayan felt accomplished by getting a degree, getting his PhD from Berkeley. But I'm sure that today NC State University is ornated because of his presence there. Shankar and Anish, would you like to give us a short introduction of yours? Just 2 sentences each. Shankar, go ahead. You have to unmute yourself. Shankar, we can't hear you. Can you hear us? Can you hear me?
He says, I cannot unmute.
You can't unmute yourself? Or okay, what about Anish? Anish, are you around?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So I am part of the WhatsApp group, and I recently moved to Charlotte, and I am IT Delhi pass out 95. Yeah, so I really like the talk. I just joined, I saw the message, and it's really exciting to.
Which IIT are you from?
IIT 99 Delhi. I passed out in 99, and I did chemical engineering.
Anish Kumar.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. It was a very interesting talk.
Okay, here I invite Mr. Amitabh Raturi, our chapter representative between individual PanIIT chapters and PanIIT USA. He will be introducing our next distinguished speaker, Mr. Todd Harris, and Todd's wife, Minnie Harris, my daughter from McKinsey Company, MIT, and Stanford is also here with us. Can you unveil yourself, Aparna? Are you around? Okay.
Hi, how are you?
Good to see you, Aparna. So, two introductions before I start. Shankar Baliga is my classmate from IIT Kanpur, 1979 batch. Just one of the most brilliant people I've met. And then, of course, Purnima ji, who orchestrated this whole session. Purnima ji reminds me of the Dwarika Prasad Maheshwari poem, you know, Veer tum bade chalo, Veer tum bade chalo. So she's totally unstoppable. And Jagdish and Abhay, thank you so much for a lovely, lovely setup. But it is my great pleasure to introduce Todd. Todd is the 2019 most admired CEO. Okay, so we are not talking small fry here. He is an accomplished entrepreneur, and he is the chair of the global nonprofit called NASEF. NASEF stands for the Network of Academic and Scholastic Esports Foundation. Esports is my favorite because sports analytics is my favorite subject. And, you know, I was doing simulation in 1981. So using video games in the classrooms has to be an absolutely exciting topic. Todd, thank you so much for doing this. And we're looking forward to this. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for the introduction. It's my pleasure to be here. And I'm fortunate that through Aparna, I get to be part of this community for the evening. I'm going to continue the theme of diamonds because it spoke to me and invoke a saying in English of diamonds in the rough, because the saying diamond in the rough refers to a person who has great potential, but is not as refined or as developed enough for he or she to be appreciated as much as he should be. And my belief is that the current education system, particularly in K through 12, before higher education, is producing too few diamonds. And I'm going to make the case for all of you through our conversation that video games delivered in the classroom the right way will help us develop diamonds. To start, I'll share a few specific examples of people around the world who agree with me and have joined this mission. As you heard in the introduction, I'm fortunate to chair a global nonprofit called NASEF. And NASEF really originated this idea of using video games for positive student outcomes. Now, for many of you, before this Zoom call, perhaps you gave very little thought to video games. Perhaps you considered them a child's toy, not knowing that the average age of a video game player is 35 years old. Perhaps you considered video games to be a small commercial industry, not realizing that gaming is the largest entertainment industry on the planet, and nothing else is even close. You have to take the entire global film industry and music industry and put those together, and commercially they're still much smaller than video games, which is $180 billion a year in commercial impact. And when it comes to the effect on the mind, perhaps you thought of video games similar to junk food, something to be avoided or to have in very small doses. But when we look around the world, we are seeing that the research and leaders in education no longer believe this. I'll start with India, since so many of you here have ties to India. In India, there's a gentleman named Mr. Ravneet Gill. He's one of India's most senior bankers. He was formerly CEO of Deutsche Bank, and he spent about 3.5 decades in the banking industry. He's now founder of a new company that educates students using video games. And in January of this year, his company joined our global nonprofit as the official affiliate of India. And I'll be happy to make any introductions afterwards for those of you who are interested. If we look to Japan, similarly, the company Third Wave, which is the largest manufacturer of personal computers in that country, has established a nonprofit for using video games for education. Japan now has 444 high schools with scholastic video game programs. Abhay Bhushan in Palo Alto, so we'll look to California. In California, often considered an innovator in education within the United States, there's now 400 high schools that participate in the competitive play of video games with a scholastic, student-led outcome. Their state championship will occur next week, and our company will run the state championship. So just as you may have grown up playing for a championship in tennis or cricket or rugby, now video games are a sport in most states within the United States. And because I see the NCSU banner behind the professor, in Raleigh recently, the University of North Carolina State received a $12 million grant from the North Carolina General Assembly to build an on-campus gaming facility, and another $4 million grant to develop a mobile truck that will bring gaming competitions to other parts of the state. Many of the most talented high school players of video games may earn a college scholarship, because already in the United States, on an annual basis, there's $16 million in scholarships for the most talented video game players to attend college at about 200 universities that have varsity video game teams. All of these initiatives in India, in Japan, in California, in North Carolina, and many other countries are related to the global nonprofit that I'm honored to chair, called NASIF. And that's because the research is very, very clear on the benefits. Most of the research was initiated at University of California at Irvine, which was a grant of funds to complete some of this early research about 5 years ago. And that research demonstrated that when gaming is implemented in a school setting, in the NASIF approach, it helped in a number of ways. The first was increasing students' interest and affiliation with the school itself. Perhaps for all of you, academics came somewhat naturally, but for many students, they find it a hard time to be attached to their school, and they can be on the outside. For some of those, where academics is not appealing, traditional sports is a way to get engaged. But for others, traditional sports are not as viable. This could be because of physical disabilities. This could be because of the size or gender, but video games is open to all. It's the ultimate accessible activity. I may not play football if I'm not wide enough. I may not play basketball if I'm not tall enough. I may not play ice hockey if I don't have access to a rink in my geography. But these days, with an internet and a computing device, gaming is accessible to all, which is why almost a third of the planet now considers themselves a gamer. So affiliation with school through video games is very important. The second outcome that was demonstrated is improving STEM learning and interest. Again, for this group of engineers, perhaps STEM was a natural interest. And when many of us went to school, STEM was an option, but it's now a requirement. Every company and almost every job requires some familiarity with computing, technology, engineering, and math. But for far too many kids, they're not exposed to that in their household, but they all want to play video games. So increased engagement in STEM was the second outcome. The third was more positive relationships with peers and adults and strengthening self-regulation. We used to call these the soft skills. Now educators call them social emotional learning, and it's a big priority. If you're not engaged in traditional sports and you're not engaged in project work, for many young people, they don't have the opportunity to work on a team and to assume different roles. But within a video game, as with traditional sports, there are different roles. You have to compromise, you have to learn discipline, you have to be a good winner and a good loser, and games accomplish all of that. Today, the International Olympic Committee, together with the Singapore National Olympic Council, released the details for the first ever Olympic Esports Week. For the first time, video games will be played in association with the Olympics, 10 different video games, as a signal of what is happening around the world. To give you one specific example of the type of engagement that we do, every year our nonprofit works with the US State Department. There's a very popular game that's called Minecraft, very popular game for youth. And you can construct and build in this game and even do simple scripting and learn logic. NASIF and the State Department every year do a competition called FarmCraft. And FarmCraft uses this video game to enhance the understanding of the challenges faced by agriculture producers and distributors around the world. They learn about food scarcity and bio-ag tech in order to maximize food yield. There's a different problem set every year. We just completed the competition for 2023. It drew 8,500 participants from 59 countries. Very quickly, I want to share a bit about why this works so well and why video games are consuming the world's attention. And then I'll open it up for questions. So I'll invite you, if you happen to have questions, you can put them in the chat or, of course, hit me at the end. But there's really 5 elements that make a video game very, very unique. And I want to walk you quickly through all 5. The first is simply that it has the attention of young people. There are many well-intentioned education programs, but if you don't have the attention of someone, you can't deliver impact. And video games have attention. The market has made that clear. For the latest generation, the so-called Gen Alphas, 94% of them identify as gamers. and there's 3 billion gamers on the planet. So gaming has the attention, which is important to start with. The second is the fact that gaming is interactive. When you think about what makes a video game different from a book or a movie or a TV show or any other form of art, if all of us watch the movie Romeo and Juliet, it always ends the same way and we all get the same ending. But if we were to play a video game version of that, it would end differently for every one of us. Because in a video game, by definition, it's interactive. In a video game, you are the protagonist. You make choices that matter. And so you have agency. And that's a very important psychological concept. The third element is clear goals and real-time feedback. What all of us would love to have in a learning environment is a clear, identified goal and constant feedback on how we're progressing towards that goal. And this is what video games are excellent at delivering. When you play a game towards a goal, you fail over and over and over again until you stop failing. I'm sure there were many failures in the carbon to diamond process, and we all experience those. Failing, but eventually succeeding is what's called a growth mindset. And again, it's very important to the learning process. The fact that it's not just what I came into the world with, but it's my effort that produces results. And again, a lot of research from Stanford related to better positive outcomes with a growth mindset. And then the final thing about a video game, when I was growing up, you would play a game by yourself, but these days you're playing connected with other people all over the world. And so the idea of online teamwork and cooperating with other people is a very valuable skill that also translates to education. So I could share many, many more examples from around the world, but I wanted to mainly leave you all with an understanding that this is a trend that's happening and it bodes well for more positive student outcomes, and even more specifically, more students being interested in the fields of STEM, including engineering and more broadly. And if time permits and there's some questions, I'd be happy to take them. Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't know you were such a captivating speaker. I have a question here, but I can't shoot it to the chat room. What do I do?
Then just say it.
Okay, tennis is known to improve your health and lifestyle. When I think of a video game, I think of breeding sedentary lifestyle, promoting sedentary lifestyle. What do you say about that?
Yes, so I think that is certainly a danger. If you go to the NASIF website, and if anyone is interested, I will put the website there, because the curriculum and materials there are free for educators and also for parents. There's an entire section on healthy gaming, because like anything, it needs to be delivered with balance. What's very interesting is when you're talking to a gamer of age, let's say 13, they're not that convinced by arguments that you really need to get up and move around for your long-term health. But that can be mandated, but it doesn't inspire them. What has worked really well is the research that shows your performance in this video game that you care about as much as you cared about tennis as a young person. Your performance in this game will be better if you're getting physical activity. You are not a brain on a stick. It's one system, and your body supports your cognitive health. So your decision-making speed, your hand-eye reflexes. If you don't get enough sleep, if you're not eating well, if you're too sedentary, you will not be the player that you want to be. That message is both true and resonates with young people. It has the benefit that it also will extend their career because, believe it or not, you can get gaming injuries, including carpal tunnel, eye strain, neck, and back. And so it is very important health-wise, but the performance message is what takes it home.
Todd,
Thank you.
I really enjoyed your talk. I was one of the people who always consider video game the first 5 things what people think of. Okay, you have moved the needle on me to considering video game. Now, one concern Purnima expressed was the sedentary lifestyle, which is really there. I have another concern that some of the people I know become addicted to video games, and addictions are hard to break. And these addictions can be really problematic. Like, we have people are addicted to their little cell phones and things. They're always constantly texting, doing this thing, doing that thing, but not really interacting in real time with people with kind of what I consider real games. Okay, that means so how do you address that primary issue?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and I won't discount it. It's certainly something that has to be looked at. Again, the NASIF materials do include some, I would say red flags to look at, because many behaviors can be addicting. I think that one thing that is often, I'm going to say mischaracterized is, looking at the time spent gaming and what it is replacing, because there's always a substitute and a cost benefit. And so if it was replacing, let's say, physical activity or socializing in offline real world spaces with others, that could be concerning. What often gets replaced is watching TV. And so I talk to a lot of parents who are concerned maybe that their young person is spending an hour and a half a day playing a video game while they spend 2.5 hours watching Netflix, and their young person is not consuming passive media. They're playing a video game, which is actually much more active. And there's a bunch of 2022 research actually showing the improvement in cognitive function and memory through video games. So I don't want to discount the concern because it's valid, but in most cases, it's a shift from more passive consumption of media, meaning TV and film and just vegging on the couch and not being an active agent, or from social media, which again has its own problems and challenges with addiction. And unlike social media, where you're competing for likes and affirmations from others, in general with a game, the emphasis is on your achievement and often cooperating with others to achieve a goal. So it can have downsides, but it's replacing often less desirous behaviors.
I can say one thing about Todd Harris. I don't know how much you spend your time on computer and gaming. Do you yourself play games, video games? Okay, you do.
I play a little bit now, but I played one of the reasons I'm so passionate about this is my path to technology was entirely through video games. So I was a huge gamer.
I can say one thing about Todd, that it would be very difficult for any of you to beat him in table tennis.
Well, I also try to demonstrate balance as we do with all of our gamers. It's very important, as I said, that it's part of a balanced, healthy lifestyle.
So, hi Todd, very nice.
Thank you.
How to incorporate this artificial intelligence, particularly quantum computing, into video games that could take it to a next level?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there. In terms of the development process, artificial intelligence is already being incorporated. As you may know, games tend to be on the leading edge of technology. So whether it was, the early graphics engines, the early virtual reality applications, early artificial intelligence, even in terms of scripting what's called non-player characters, which are enemies or other folks. And so already AI has been incorporated into the game industry in terms of generating stories with ChatGPT and using DALL-E 2 and Midjourney for generating concept art. It's really cutting down on the cost for production, and I would say democratizing the ability to create, which is helpful because it's leading to more diverse stories and games coming out there. And so, yeah, I think that the future of one things games do really well is artificial intelligence that adjusts the difficulty to the player. In many of the games that I developed in my past, you know, we would have a team, and before we faced human opponents, we would face computer AI controlled, what are called bots. And the team that we faced would adjust itself to the difficulty so that we won, but just barely. It was always a close match. And that made it a very engaging loop so that when we played humans, we had the confidence to go and play humans. That's the sort of learning system that I think we'd all want in our AI educators, is a system that gives us goals or materials that are just a little bit at our reach, and then we grasp it, and then we get a goal that's just a little harder.
Well, when you told me your subject line, I thought you would be talking about everybody would be playing video games in a classroom. I didn't know it would be so educative, so educational. And we have put here this evening or this morning for people in India and Pakistan, a lot of intelligence on this small screen. And thank you, Todd. Thank you, Jagdish. And now let us move on. Is that okay?
Thank you.
Duldana, are you around? Duldana, we are looking for you. Maybe now she went to sleep, because this is her early morning time in England. Okay, how about if we meanwhile have a song or something, let us say.
I think she's connected, but then she's muted or something. Yes, she's there. I think.
Manoj, can you come up with something? Can you talk or sing or do something to?
No, the singing I would leave to Farzana ji, because she's there in all smiles.
Farzana
and she's
here,
ready for singing, I believe.
I don't know, introduce her for a song.
Are you ready for that? You're muted.
Farzana, is
You're muted.
around?
I'm very much around.
Oh, yes, there she
She's
is.
here. I just texted her. Yeah, there she is.
For a second, I lost you all because I was absolutely amazed by Dr. Jagdish Narayan and Todd Harris. I think both of you have just mesmerized me.
Yes.
Absolutely. I'm so grateful, Purnima, for inviting me to very enlightening. It's just an amazing
You have two
session.
profiles here.
I'm sorry?
You have two profiles here.
Do I have two profiles here? Tell me the first one.
Okay. I'm back here as your host to introduce our next exquisite speaker, Ms. Duldana Ansari. Pussycat, where have you been? I have been to London to look at the Queen. A nursery rhyme, right? But Ms. Ansari's journey as an unknown girl from Karachi, Pakistan, to the Windsor Castle, to not only look at the Queen, but to receive OBE honor from Her Majesty the Queen for her contribution to become voice on BBC to empower thousands of unprivileged people, is exemplary for anyone. On one hand, she interviewed personalities and politicians, iconic personalities and politicians. And on the other hand, she is an honorary captain for the Royal Navy, What a combination. Captain Durdana Ansari, please.
Thank you so much, Purnima, and thank you so much, everyone. I've got Professor Jagdish Narayan Sahab here, Abhay Bhushan, Manoj Verman, and Todd Harris. All these lovely people. I don't know. I feel absolutely lost here. What am I going to talk about? These people have taken, you know, completely taken me aback now. So thank you so much. And Todd, I've seen my two sons playing games for years and years, and they still do that while they're in very high positions or whatever they're doing. So thank you so much. And Dr. Professor Saab, Jagdish Saab, thank you for giving us all the knowledge, but I think I have to live another life to understand what you were telling us. I have to come back to the second life to actually learn, but it'll be a delight to meet you sometime one day.
Thank
So
you.
thank you so much. And talking about myself is like, well, I've just come from London last night, and I have been put on a spot here because I thought I was going to be awake at 3 in the morning in London. Now I was awake at 5 in the morning in Pakistan, here in Karachi. So what a delight to be part of this amazing session. I went to England at the age of 16 when I was married. And when you're married at the age of 16, I don't think anybody, especially in those days, when you're coming from I wouldn't say a simple background, but I used to be a little singer. I would sing the most amazing, very difficult songs of Lata Mangeshkar when I could not even understand the meaning of them. I used to sing into my classroom with my class fellows, and yet reciting poetry from Allama Iqbal every morning at the school assembly. And that girl, when she's told that you have to go away, that person is absolutely, I think, lost, because at the age of 15, 16, how do you enter into another life when nobody has actually told you to say, this is how you become a woman from a child, and this is how you have to behave in your next life. So you just simply put on a plane and you are coming to this country, which all you see is like, how I felt was like, I'm just seeing different clouds, different colors of clouds. And all of a sudden you are in a very, very different world, culturally, emotionally, looking at it. Everything was completely different. Whereas I was an artist, I used to just simply draw. All my drawings and things were my dreams. And I thought that is what's going to happen. And I'm going to see all those dreams coming into reality. And obviously that does not happen in reality. So my first child was born partially deaf. And since I was young, I thought I was bringing up a child. Every time a speech therapist came to our place, I would just lock myself in. I did not want to be part of that reality, to say that I have a deaf child, a partially deaf child. So somebody once said to me, look, you've got to be straight, you've got to be strong enough to make sure that you bring up this child who has got this disability. What I did was, because this little girl used to get bullied by her cousins and by her schoolmates because she could not hear. So I first of all put her into karate lessons. So all I was trying to do is to put some sort of energy in this girl who has come into my life, who's beautiful. And I just wanted to make sure that she doesn't face the same kind of reality, where I could hear and I could see everything, but at the same time, going into a Western world, thinking that you're not really anybody. You're a girl coming from Pakistan and you must behave like a Pakistani. I was never told how does a Pakistani behaves. So I was simply just a person. So I wanted to make sure that this girl becomes so strong. Whereas, I mean, she became a karate expert once and learning from her. So my aims were always very high. I wasn't sure because whatever I was doing, I didn't realize that I was actually moving on in life and maybe people were recognizing me. Every 10th year, there's a big revolution in my life. So that whole 10th year, I had like another lovely son, beautifully, he works for Deloitte now, and all these young, amazing people. And my daughter, her name is Amina, she's one of the finest artists in the world now. She's a painter, so her work is in Windsor Castle. So I am a dreamer. I've always been a dreamer, but I've never been a great planner like yourself, Professor J. Narayan Saab. I would be scared to come and talk in front of you, trust me. And also Todd. So the thing is that when you are determined, once you're hungry, once you are angry at the same time, you do get these, amazing dreams coming into reality and you are fighting for them. You are fighting, but at the same time, you don't really realize when people are saying that you're becoming a celebrity, you become somebody big. So I was told that good girls from good families don't sing. So, okay, so I never sang for 10 years. 10th year, I was singing at a little, somebody said to me, we know that you have a good voice. Can you sing for us? So that was really an excitement moment for me. And I sang there. Had I not realized there was a person sitting from the BBC, and I was called upon from the BBC in the next 2 days to say, can you please come and take part in it? So I went there by default. I was always headhunted. But the thing is that when you are headhunted or when you are put on a spot or when somebody has recognized your talents, you've got to be focused. You've got to make sure that whatever you're doing, it is genuine. You are sincere with that. You're working hard. And trust me, working hard is like, I don't know, if I had 48 hours in a day, I would work. So all I wanted to make sure that whatever I'm doing, I've got all these masters, surrounded by masters of the BBC. And this young person goes in who was treated like a little girl. I used to present in a program and people thought that I was a little child. So we started getting mails of fans and millions of, listeners out there in the world. 10th year, I started as an assistant, learned all the editing and whatnot. And then 10th year later, I went for, somebody said, oh, there's an attachment in the English service. So I went to the English service. I started working in Meridian. Meridian sent me to Bombay. Meridian, I interviewed Shah Rukh Khan and Amir Khan or whatnot. So you are growing at the same time when your children are growing with you. And once you realize that, okay, I'm doing something worthwhile, people are looking at you and they want more out of you. And I think at the same time, my hunger always wanted more out of myself. I wanted to make sure that whatever I do, somebody is not looking down on me. Somebody is also thinking, oh my God, yes, we didn't know she could do that. Or in fact, I didn't know I could do that. So I've always tested and tried and carried on and went to Meridian and the Outlook. And at the end, well, I wouldn't say at the end, but within the BBC, I went and became a producer of The World Today, the News Hour, which is one of the most amazing programs, the current affairs. So life has taken you. I've got, mashallah, 4 kids now, all brilliant kids. One of is very much interested in games and gaming industry. So I think it's like once you are at the World Service and the BBC, you just don't know because you're within the same building for 22 years. You just feel this is where you're going to be for the rest of your life. Either you go to what, so United Nations or whatever. An earthquake took place in 2005 in Pakistan, Kashmir. And I was also presenting on Asian television for 20 years at the same time. Because I wanted to, all I was doing is trying to make sure that I'm paying the bills. every time my voice was on any television or lots of industry, I've been voiceovers they were using my voice for. You don't realize that the life has taken you and you're working hard, and sometimes you feel tired, sometimes you feel very energetic. So when you're feeling like that, there's a call, the whole universe is working around you. And I was sent out to the earthquake zone in 2005. And every single day, every morning at dawn, I was taken by the helicopter going into remotest areas, and all I was doing was reporting from the area, getting up to, in the mountains and talking to people, and hundreds of them just gathered around me, thinking that I was there to help them. I brought some sort of luck for them, seeing all those dead bodies and reporting from mass graves. That shook me. I came back to England after a month, and I realized that my life has not been spent in the right manner. Maybe I'm not doing enough. I haven't done anything, something which touched my heart. And my father said to me at that very moment, he said, why are you worried? You've got a big name. You are a celebrity in the world. I said, no, Abu, there's something missing in my life. I'm here to do something else. And as I was thinking, within 2 weeks of that kind of feeling, I got a call from the House of Lords to say, we're going back to Pakistan, and would you be able to come with us as an expert? I never consider myself an expert in anything really. So I was taken back to where I'm sitting right now. And it was a delegation, a British delegation, which was touring the area of disasters just after 6 months of the earthquake. And one of the House of Lords member saw something in me, and they were, after 7/7 bombing in London, they were looking for a Muslim woman to head a project to educate Muslim women living in Britain. And that they thought that perhaps it was myself. I was taken from the World Service, from the BBC, to head this project. And the project was about making sure that all these women coming from underprivileged background living in England learned basic English and basic IT to be able to understand their own kids. So I was appointed as a director of a charity, and leaving a big world from the BBC, coming into this charity, I had no idea how a charity works. So gradually try to understand, appointed coordinators in various cities of England. And all I was doing is simply traveling up and down the country and meeting people and going into communities, talking to these women. Some of them didn't even know how to communicate with their own GP, their doctors, or even went to a McDonald's, coming from Bangladesh or coming from Pakistan or wherever from Mirpur. And we had it was just a pilot project, and it was meant to be just for 100 women. But just to cut it short, within 7 years, we managed to get my project. I wouldn't say that I did, but the people who were working with me, my project, we managed to get more than 9,000 women in the country were recruited to our program. So this is how the life took me from A to B and B to God knows where. And this is where I am, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that I was then appointed, well, I was given an OBE, which is the Order of the British Empire, for helping the communities in England. And I could never forget the blue eyes of Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth, when she literally looked into my eyes and she said, Dodana, thank you very much for coming to this country. And thank you very much for helping us out here. I was taken aback. I wore my gharara on the day because I wanted to make sure people always see that. If you Google me, you can see those things. And that is the day when I realized I was brought to this world to help the humanity. And trust me, it is the moment that now I feel still quite empty, that maybe there's something else waiting out there. So a few years later, um, I was attending when you're with the BBC and you're an OB and you whatnot, you're a chief guest, you're going to special events. One special event was the great big yearly Asian Awards. And once I got there, I usually wear saris and obviously our national dress. And I saw lots of people in uniform. And I wondered why at an Asian award, these people, distinguished people, the first Sea Lord, all of them are sitting there, and all of a sudden they got interested into my life. They wanted to know who I was, or perhaps they already had done their homework. Next thing is, for a whole year, I was invited to these amazing, just very, very lavish events by the Navy, the most. And one day I stood there at my mom's place. I'm staying in ever since my father passed away, I had left my home and I came and stayed with my mom. And I'm still staying there. And the reason I'm here, I've come to pick her up. So I'm only here for 4 days. A letter came, just like the OBE letter coming from the palace, a yellowish with a red stamp and a green handwritten. And the first Sea Lord at that time is telling me that Radana Ansari, I'm going to take the consent from Her Majesty. Would you give your consent to become a lieutenant commander? And I just stood there and I said, what does this mean? What is this? I mean, I have got nothing to do with any army, nothing to do with any armed forces. This is something completely new. And I looked around, there was no neighbor. And I called my son. I said, Samad, this is the letter that I have just received. And I called one of the friends in the House of Lords to say, I said, well, congratulations, Radana. This is an amazing thing. Next thing is like James Bond, you go in there and you're given about 10 types of uniforms. And next thing is, it's been 6 years now that I was then promoted to a commander. 2 years later, honorary captain. And day before yesterday, I was within the coronation program at HMS Diamond, which is one of our warships. The first Sea Lord, the way he introduced me to the Governor General from New Zealand and the people, he said, this is one of our most amazing and the only Muslim honorary captain for the Royal Navy. Brought tears to me. Today, I'm sitting here and we've got a very special day, ladies and gentlemen. Today is the coronation for the King Charles III. And Sir Tony Radakin, who is my mentor, who's the Chief of Defense, who is my greatest friend, has been appointed by the King as Lord High Constable of England and to carry the baton used by Duke of Wellington at the coronation of George VI in 1821. So these are the people that I work with. These are the people that I get inspired by. People like Miss Professor Narayan, Todd, Purnima Lady, my sister Farzana Ansari, my mother, my children, the entire community that I work with, the people who love to listen to me. I'm very grateful to each and everyone. Whoever I am today, it is because of you all. I never could think that I would be sitting here. I don't plan my speeches. I'm speaking at Trafalgar's Day. I'm speaking at UK Maritime as the keynote speakers. I go around the world. I go to Zimbabwe. I go to other places in Africa. I come to Asia. And all people would like to know, who is this woman, who she is, what she was, but we can all do that. It's not a rocket science. If you can do it, if I can do it, so can you. So all I am here, believe in yourself, be yourself, Don't try to be someone else. Keep on learning. There is the emptiness that I'm telling you now is the 10th year again. And this is the first time I'm actually trying to understand, is there something else in life for me? Is there something else out there waiting for me? I was invited as a guest over Mariana Trench. I was in the Pacific Ocean for 17 days with these amazing tycoons from USA. Who are these people? Who am I? Why do they recognize you? Because you believe in yourself. You believe in what you're doing, and you want to make sure that you keep on learning the new things each and every day. So I think you must be bored by now, all of you. If there's any question, I don't know, but I'm all here.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
You forgot to tell that your picture is on the subway in all over England.
Oh, good Lord. Nowadays, all the House of Lords members and the ambassador, British ambassador from UK to Italy, they're all my colleagues. They're all honorary captains. And my university decided to put my picture as a pioneer of history, in history, with George Birkbeck, who was the founder of Birkbeck University, with my face. It is all over in underground in London, and thousands of letters and thousands of messages I get every single day. Oh my God, I saw you there. And my daughter, who's hard of hearing, she just had, this is one of the most amazing things, is that she just had cochlear implants in both the ears. And she always fights with me. Why do you always keep a low key? Why do you always have, why don't you tell the world who you are? I said, Amina, it's okay. God has been absolutely just almighty, has given me my parents, belief in me and their prayers, my sisters, my brothers, my people out there who have that faith in me. I think this is who I am. And by getting my picture I didn't want to go into, because I was too embarrassed to see myself. But every now and then I'm getting letters after letters to say, and their pictures to say, oh my God, Dudana, we didn't know you were so big outside the Navy, because obviously in the communities, they see me as a different person, but now they see me in uniform as well. So it's a matter of sending out the message to say, listen, you can do it, and you can do it beyond your imaginations. You can be among these people who are, I'm just flabbergasted by these people who have just made these talks. I was simply trying to listen to Professor Narayan and to Todd. Who are these people? They're amongst us. We need to connect with them and make sure, at this stage of mine, it's now high time that we tell our next generation, because I'm worried about them. I'm worried about the people. I'm worried about the young children. Come on, wake up. And I think it is us. We would be the failure if our youngsters are not doing. And Professor Narayan, you said that you do not put challenges in front of your young people. I think you should do that, because that's the only way they're going to grow even further than us. So giving challenges, obtaining them, understanding them, and becoming, I think I've talked enough. I'm boring you now. I can see people are stunned, people are quiet. So Purnima, thank you so much. And if anybody has got any
Thank you,
question, I'll
Dudana.
be delighted to.
This is the first time I met a celebrity without a crown, without horns on her head, and with no ego. Manoj, what would you say?
Oh, wonderful. Absolutely inspiring. This is something, it's I can't express in words. या तो मेरे पास अल्फाज नहीं है उतने कहने के लिए, या अल्फाजों में वो ताकत ही नहीं है दुर्दाना जी जो डिस्क्राइब कर सकें the kind of inspiration you are. And I'm sure each and everybody, and I've been looking at some of the messages which are coming thick and fast, that everybody is inspired. And why not? You are a hugely inspiring story. In fact, you have not created history. You have actually created herstory now for everybody to follow and emulate. And the words that you said that we can do it beyond our imagination. And you are a true example of that. I'm absolutely privileged to be here, a part of this today. Thank you very much, Purnima ji, for involving me in this. It's been absolutely, I don't know, I'm running out of words now.
And now the
Yes,
stage is
Manoj,
all
thank
yours.
you so much. I'm so grateful to when somebody said to me, you are the keynote speaker. What am I going to talk about? Because this is it. I think inside I am a simple person. I think so. My children don't think I'm a simple person, but I certainly feel that I am a simple person. Keep your feet on the ground, no matter where you are. Just make sure that you recognize the reality, the surroundings around you. Once you start thinking that you are beyond any, other people, or no, that is the day we will fall really flat on our faces.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dudana ji.
Manoj,
Apni humble,
Very
अपना
inspirational.
Manoj,
जी
what is
बताइए.
that? जगदीश अभी बहुत
No,
खूबसूरत
Professor
गाने
Narayan
हो
is
रहे
asking something. Professor Narayan is asking something, saying something.
No, I say it's very inspirational, Dudana ji. It's very nice. I'm so.
आप मेरे लिए कह रहे हैं नारायण जी, आपके साथ तो आइंस्टाइन के बेटे और बच्चे जो हैं वो आपको इंस्पिरेशन लेते हैं आपसे. आप कहाँ मेरी बात कर रहे हैं?
अरे
मैं तो खुद
नहीं
आपकी वजह से मैं सर झुकाए बैठी हूँ.
नहीं आप, it's very inspiring, very nice. We are so
कहते हैं ना,
proud of
तुझे
you.
क्या सुनाऊं ए दिल रुबा, तेरे सामने मेरा हाल है, तेरी एक निगाह की बात है, मेरी जिंदगी का सवाल
का
है.
सवाल है. क्या बात,
बहुत खूब.
क्या बात. देखिए, मैं ये मानता हूं, हम लोग कहते हैं कि he is great, she is great. My thinking is the first prerequisite, the first requirement of being great is being humble. If you're not humble, you cannot achieve greatness, simply cannot. And that's in large measure, you possess that humbleness. There's no doubt about it.
Thank you, sir. But I'm open to invitations. Anybody would like me to come to any point of the world, I'll be there. I'm going on to Kilimanjaro. I'm going on to Kilimanjaro soon. I've done my skydiving. My kids have literally उन्होंने छोड़ दिया मुझे. उन्होंने कहा आप कुछ नहीं कर सकते इन खातून का. I jump from 15,000 feet, so I do all kind of things, and I can still wear a nice sari. So I'm happy to be. If anyone ever wants me to come and inspire anyone, that will be my luckiest day.
I'm
Thank you.
proud of you, Dudana. I'm glad I came across you. Thank you
so
for coming
much.
to my home also. That was nice.
So why don't you hear something from her while she's there?
Yeah, of course. दुर्दाना जी कुछ सुनाएंगी आप, क्योंकि मुझे जिम्मेदारी दी गई थी. And in fact, Todd, really, I apologize to
अब
you.
मैं आपको खरी सुना सकती हूँ बस.
खरी सुनाइए. But let me first apologize to Todd for the torture he can expect now, because we've been talking in English so far, but you see, we have to move on to some kind of a Hinglish, as we say in India, or I'm not sure what's the parallel word in Pakistan for mixture of Urdu and English, but certainly it's going to be much less English now onwards. So, but through Aparna, I think you may have picked up a few words, or maybe more than a few words. So perhaps you will silently understand what we're trying to say. So with the permission of Purnima ji, Durdana ji, आप कुछ खरी सुनाने की बात कर रही थी.
मैं आपको क्या सुनाऊं? एक गजल डॉक्टर सफी हसन ने लिखी थी. मैं बर्मिंघम यूनिवर्सिटी में बहुत बरसों तक इकबाल को और गालिब को रिसाइट करती रही. तो उस जमाने की बात है बहुत. तो अब कभी होता है जैसे कॉन्सुलेट्स में जाती हूँ या कहीं किसी होती कोई इवेंट्स होते हैं, बड़े बड़े गालिब हैं, फैज हैं, लिविंग लेजेंड्स हैं हमारे, इफ्तिखार आरिफ साहब हैं, तो they always invite me. So I go to high commissions. And so अभी बल्कि मैंने एक काम किया. I drove all the way to Spain while my daughter was recovering from her operation. She couldn't hear a word for 6 weeks. So what I did, I do not like staying in one place. This is something where you just want to move on. You give me half a day doing nothing, then I'm dead. So for 6 weeks, I just didn't want to see Amina just not hearing a singer, because obviously she used to wear hearing aids prior to her operation. So I picked up the car key, and then within literally 15 minutes. I made this plan. Amina, go and pick up your passport. Let's pick up my passport from my place. Put her on the boat because she was not allowed to travel by plane. So I took her from Dover to Calais, Calais to Paris, Paris to, and driving all the way to Spain for 3,000 miles. And then realized, what am I doing? She said, Ami, what is the plan? I said, I don't have a plan. So then I decided to come back. So when I got to Cordoba is you know, where Muslims kind of empire was there for nearly 800 years. There's an amazing, I don't know whether some of you have been there. So Dr. Allama Iqbal wrote a poem there. And I recited that poetry there while I was there. And we recorded it. Hopefully one day it'll come on YouTube. So that is something which I feel good at, that I was managed to do that. So now, Baji, what do you want me to sing?
Dudana, sing anything before people, because they're leaving, because it's been quite.
Oh, Baji, can you
start? Sing. Sing that same nazm that you sang at Kartaba.
नहीं करतबा वाली नहीं.
अभी इतना लंबा किस्सा जो सुनाया तो.
No, I just said that this is something that तो
कोई पुराना लता का गीत आप सुना दीजिए.
लता का.
हाँ, बहुत अच्छे गाने गाती है ये. Beautiful, she has a beautiful voice. Very amazing. सुरीली आवाज कहते हैं.
इन आँखों की महकती खुशबू, हाथ से छू के इसे रिश्तों का इल्जाम न दो. सिर्फ एहसास है ये, रूह से महसूस करो. हाथ से छू के इसे रिश्तों का इल्जाम न दो. हमने देखी है प्यार कोई बोल नहीं, प्यार आवाज नहीं, एक खामोशी है सुनती है कहा करती है. न ये रुकती है न बुझती है न ठहरी है कहीं. नूर की बूंद है सदियों से बहा करती है. सिर्फ एहसास है, रूह से महसूस करो. प्यार को प्यार ही रहने दो, कोई नाम ना दो. हमने देखी है.
Very nice, very nice.
बहुत खूब, बहुत खूबसूरत. और सच कहा फरजाना जी ने, बहुत सुरीली आवाज. और आपने दिल से जैसे बोला,
बहुत सुरीली है इसलिए वो मेरी तारीफ कर रही है.
हम तो समझे बैठे थे कि अभी तक फरजाना से अच्छा कोई गाने वाली हो ही नहीं सकती है.
बाजी अभी भी बहुत अच्छा, बहुत सबसे अच्छी है वो. And she's a lovely person.
सब अपने फन में माहिर हैं, अपनी वो है, इनका अपना अंदाज है. और आप पूर्णिमा जी का
अपनी अदा है,
तो आगे बढ़े पूर्णिमा जी, फिर आपकी इजाजत हो तो.
हाँ, बिल्कुल आगे
जरूर.
बढ़िए.
तो देखिए हमारे साथ, इससे पहले कि और लोग छोड़ के चले जाएं, अभी टॉड हमको छोड़ के चले गए और चले जाएं. हालांकि रिकॉर्डिंग रहेगी, ये एक बड़ी अच्छी बात है. स्टिल बीइंग रिकॉर्डेड. सो हमारे पास एक और फनकारा बैठी हुई हैं जो फरजाना जी हैं. और फरजाना जी के बारे में क्या कहूँ, मुझे
विवाह है
यहाँ, विवाह आएंगी अभी. तो फरजाना जी का मेरे पास थोड़ी सी जानकारी है. तो फरजाना जी, आप तैयार हैं हमारा इस खूबसूरत महफिल में 4 चांद लगाने के लिए?
जी, पता नहीं कितने चांद लगेंगे, ये तो मालूम पता चलेगा.
नहीं, देखिए आपने मुझे 4 चांदों का वो डिस्क्रिप्शन भेजा है, तो 4 चांद लगाने पड़ेंगे.
4 चांद, ठीक है.
जी, तो देखिए ऐसा है कि फरजाना जी एक प्रोफेशनल सिंगर हैं और आप अभी तक समझ ही गए होंगे जिस तरह से उनकी सिस्टर ने उनकी तारीफ की और पूर्णिमा जी भी उनकी बहुत तारीफ करती हैं। मैंने भी सुना है उनको और तमाम अमेरिका में पाकिस्तान से आती हैं, पाकिस्तान में, अमेरिका में तमाम जगहों पे उन्होंने परफॉर्म किया है अपनी खूबसूरत आवाज़ में और हम जो पहला गीत वो लेकर आ रही हैं, पहला गाना, वो देखिए मैं और भी मुझे पता है वो क्या सुनाने जा रही हैं, लेकिन मैं सब आपको नहीं बताऊँगा। कहते हैं ना कि अ, बंद है मुट्ठी तो लाख की और खुल गई तो खाक की। हालाँकि मैं गारंटी लेता हूँ, अगर ये मुट्ठी मैंने खोल दी, तो ये लाख से भी बढ़ के करोड़ की होगी क्योंकि ऐसे-ऐसे नायाब हीरों का ज़िक्र हुआ शुरू में। ये वो इस मुट्ठी में रहेंगे, जो एक-एक करके आपके सामने आएँगे और शुरुआत करते हैं उस गाने से व्हिच इज़ वेरी सिमिलर टू व्हाट वी आर डूइंग। देखिए, हम लोग बैठे हैं काफ़ी देर से और एक माहौल बन गया है, एक समा बंध गया है। तो वो हमें बताने जा रही हैं कि ये समा है देखो प्यार का। तो चूँकि प्यार मोहब्बत से हम बैठे हैं, ये समा है देखो प्यार का। उसके आगे जो वो गाएँगी उसका मतलब वही समझती हैं, मैं नहीं समझता क्योंकि उसके अगले लाइन में ये है, किसी के इंतज़ार का। अब किसके इंतज़ार का ज़िक्र वो कर रही हैं, हमसे शेयर करेंगी या नहीं करेंगी, ये तो वो ही जाने। हमें बहरहाल इंतज़ार है कि वो आएँ अपनी खूबसूरत आवाज़ से, जैसे मैंने कहा 4 क्या 6 चाँद लगा दें इस महफ़िल में जिसमें समा पहले ही बन चुका है। सो लेडीज़ एंड जेंटलमैन, पुट योर हैंड्स टुगेदर व्हेरेवर यू आर फॉर वन एंड ओनली फरज़ाना हक़्क़ी।
किसी के इंतजार का दिल रात में कहीं मेरा मौसम बहार का ये समा है प्यार का किसी के इंतजार का दिल रात में कहीं मेरा मौसम बहार का किसी के इंतजार कहीं मेरा मौसम बहार का
बहुत खूब, बहुत खूब, बहुत खूब। और देखिए आपने बिल्कुल ठीक कहा था डिजिटल मीडियम की कुछ अपनी लिमिटेशंस होती हैं, लेकिन उसके बावजूद इतनी खूबसूरत आवाज़ आई। अब तो ये लग रहा है कि अमेरिका आना पड़ेगा आपकी आवाज़ सुनने के लिए सामने रूबरू होकर। तो थैंक यू वेरी मच और हम आगे बढ़ें इसके पहले मुझे विभा जी नज़र नहीं आ रही पूर्णिमा जी।
मैंने अभी लिखा तो है, पूछा तो है, हो सकता है वो सोने चली गई हो। साढ़े
ओहो, अच्छा।
11
तो फिर ठीक है, फरजाना जी के साथ ही आगे बढ़ते हैं फिर।
हाँ।
तो
अब
अब पंजाबी गीत
जी हाँ, जरूर।
बहुत मशहूर है, तो सबको समझ
थोड़ा सा आवाज बेहतर कर सके ना।
आवाज
म्यूजिक की तरह म्यूजिक नहीं लग रहा है।
अब मैंने यही बताया था कि जो जाहिर है उसके लिए आपको पूरा बाकायदा इंतजाम
वॉल्यूम
करना होगा, स्टूडियो में जाके।
बढ़ा सकती हो?
जी,
वॉल्यूम बढ़ा सकती हो आवाज का?
वॉल्यूम तो काफी है।
आवाज का सर,
मेरी आवाज या म्यूजिक की?
तुम्हारी आवाज।
मैं अपनी आवाज बढ़ाती हूँ। हेलो जी, चलिए ये देखते हैं।
हाँ, अब ठीक आ रही है।
अच्छा, पीछे पीछे आंदा मेरी चाल वे लाई चीर वाले आवे मेरा नाम दवाजा। पीछे पीछे आंदा मेरी चाल वे लाई चीर वाले आवे मारदा वे मेरा नाम दवाजा। ना मेरी चाल वे लाई चीर वाले आवे मेरा नाम दवाजा। दिल जे मेरे अख मार रहा ताने में आई तेनू रोटी दे बहाने में रोटी दे बहाने में दिल जे मेरे अख मार रहा ताने में आई तेनू रोटी दे बहाने में रोटी दे बहाने में मिलना ते मिलनी ते रुस जाके सदने मेरे तो प्यार की मनावे मेरा नाम दवाजा निगा मार दाएंगे मेरा नाम दवाजा। पीछे पीछे आंदा मेरे चाल वेंदा वालिया भी सदाए वे मेरा नाम दवाजा निगा मार दाएंगे मेरा नाम दवाजा। खाली खाली आई सी मैं गालियां भेट कटिया सी कुंड में आवाज सुन जेठ दी आवाज सुन जेठ दी मैंने शक बंदा मेरी नक चुपड़ के टिक पाया वहां डूंगी छाई वे मेरा नाम दवाजा निगा मार दाए मेरा नाम दवाजा। पीछे पीछे आंदा मेरी चाल वेंदा चीर वाले आवे सदाए वे मेरा नाम दवाजा निगा मार दाए वे मेरा नाम दवाजा ओ मेरा नाम दवाजा ओ मेरा नाम दवाजा ओ मेरा नाम दवाजा।
क्या बात है। वो कहते ना पंजाबियां दी गल वखरी है जी। ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਫਿਰ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਲੌਂਗ?
लॉन्ग एक बारी मैंने ला के दिता सी किसी मुंडे ने एक
नहीं फरजाना जी से लास्ट राउंड बढ़िया होगा।
अच्छा, ये लास्ट नहीं था?
नहीं, लास्ट तो कभी भी नहीं होता।
सारे लास्ट के ही हो रहे हैं, शुरू वाले तो हो चुके पहले।
अच्छा,
दिस इज द शो स्टॉपर।
आप कोई अगर बताइए गाना कोई, ताकि मैं आपकी पसंद का किसी की, अगर मुझे आता हो तो मैं जरूर सुनाऊंगी।
वो एक जमाने में पर्ची में लिख के भेजते थे
हाँ,
स्टेज पे।
तुम्हें याद हो तो वो वाला मेरा गा दो, वो जमाने का दस्तूर है ये पुराना।
ये कुछ ज्यादा
याद आ-
पुराना नहीं है, ये जमाने का दस्तूर तो पुराना है, गाना भी बहुत पुराना सबको।
सब दस्तूर बदल गए, अब कहाँ उन दस्तूरों की बात कर रहे हैं।
आपको
जी जी जी।
हमें तो लूट लिया मिलके इश्क वालों ने, नशा चढ़ा जो शरीफी का उतार फेंका है, बेशरम रंग कहाँ देखा दुनिया वालों ने। तो ये चल रहे हैं गाने।
क्या बात है, क्या मजा आ गया।
नहीं, मैं आपको क्लासिक एक गाना सुनाती हूँ। हम प्यार में जलने वालों को चैन कहाँ, हाय आराम कहाँ, हम प्यार में जलने वालों को चैन कहाँ, हाय आराम कहाँ, हम प्यार में जलने वालों को।
अच्छा, हमारा नंबर आ गया क्या?
जी जी, आ गया।
क्या बात है, क्या बात है। थैंक यू वेरी मच। थोड़ी कोशिश करते हैं कि इतने सारे अकम्प्लिश सिंगर्स के सामने कुछ हम भी।
मुझे लगता था कि तुम कविता ही लिखते और सुनाते हो, मुझे मालूम नहीं था गाने का, नहीं तो मैं पहले ही कहती।
नहीं 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 नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है, वो तो इंस्पायर हो गए हम आप लोगों को सुन के। तो छोटा सा एक गीत है,
क्या कहते हैं, इरशाद।
इरशाद, जो भी कहिए सर। छू कर मेरे मन को किया तूने क्या इशारा, छू कर मेरे मन को किया तूने क्या इशारा, बदला ये मौसम लगे प्यारा जग सारा, छू कर मेरे मन को किया तूने क्या इशारा, आजा तेरा आंचल ये प्यार से मैं भर दूं, प्यार से मैं भर दूं, गीत तेरे बोलों पे लिखता चला जाऊं, लिखता चला जाऊं, मेरे गीतों में तुझे ढूंढे जग सारा, छू कर मेरे मन को किया तूने क्या इशारा, बदला ये मौसम लगे प्यारा जग सारा, छू कर मेरे मन को किया तूने क्या इशारा। थैंक यू।